Bless Radio. It's Tuesday evening, and this is the Spiritual Discussion Program. My name is Saad, and with me shortly will be Gregory, joining us as usual. The aim of the show is you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abdushin. And now no, Gregory's still not there yet. So, Gregory, are you there now? Okay, you're back. You're with us now. So, welcome, Gregory. How are you doing, and how is the weather where you are?
One is fine, and it is cool.
Cool. Okay, here in London, it is sunny and overcast together, and it has become cool as well here. So, yes, listeners. So, as I was saying, the aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abdushin. And every week we have a new topic for discussion. The topic tonight is striving for purity. Striving for purity. You are welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number one.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. I'm going to begin with, what is the Grail message? The Grail message in the light of truth by Abdushin is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the readers again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail message, Abdushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. the word of the Grail message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic that we're discussing tonight is striving for purity. You are welcome to join us with any questions or comments. You can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you will see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And I'd just like to say that today is the 2nd of September, and yesterday, the 1st of September, they say is the beginning of the meteorological autumn. So autumn season has begun here, at least in the northern hemisphere. Obviously, in the southern hemisphere, it is spring. And then also, again, in the northern hemisphere, or at least in the northern Europe, very far north, you could say, people are seeing these northern lights, which is really a magical display of nature, with these all very colorful, beautiful lights in the sky at night that we see. So I just thought I would share that with people. Now, I like to always begin with the meaning of the words of the topic in the dictionary. So the topic tonight is striving for purity. So the first word there is striving. Even strive, you can say. The meaning I found in the dictionary, 2 meanings. First one, make great efforts to achieve or obtain something. And they give an example there. National movements were striving for independence. So let me repeat that one. Make great efforts to achieve or obtain something. Gregory, how is this meaning in regards to our discussion?
It is helpful, although it doesn't explain the means.
The means, okay.
Yeah, the means, which one we'll discuss later.
Okay, sure. Okay, let us see if the second definition helps. It says, again, this is the meaning for the word strive or striving. Struggle or fight vigorously. And they give an example on that as well. Scholars must strive against bias. So struggle or fight vigorously. What do you say about this one, Gregory?
Again, these are good pointers.
Okay, good. That's good. So the next keyword is purity. In fact, that's the last one as well. Purity. That again in the dictionary I found 2 meanings. The first one, freedom from adulteration or contamination. And they give example, the purity of our drinking water. So freedom from adulteration or contamination. What do you say about this one, Gregory?
It is a good pointer, although there are some things which have not been discussed.
Okay, fine. We're going to look at these things in more detail later. The second definition in the dictionary says freedom from immorality, especially of a sexual nature. And then they give example for this one. White roses represent purity and innocence. So how about this one, Gregory? Freedom from immorality, or especially of sexual nature.
Well, it's like the first one. These are good pointers.
Okay, okay, that's fine. Let's continue. Now, nowadays, I'd like to look up the meaning of the whole topic in the Google and see what, because they have AI now, and see what it can give us. So I looked up the whole word striving, or phrase I should say, striving for purity, and I came up with this. Striving for purity generally involves an earnest effort to live a morally clean and upright life, which can extend beyond sexual purity to encompass thoughts, words, and attitudes. Let me stop there for a moment, Gregory, because there's a bit more, but I just thought we should look at that first. So just let me repeat. Striving for purity generally involves an earnest effort to live a morally clean and upright life, which can extend beyond sexual purity to encompass thoughts, words, and attitudes. How's this one now, Gregory?
Again, it's a good pointer, but there's some key things it hasn't mentioned.
Ah, okay. Okay, let me continue. In a Christian context, it means aligning one's heart, mind, and actions with God's will, often involving practices like prayer, reading scripture, seeking accountability, and fleeing from temptation to honor God and demonstrate the purity of Christ to the world. Gregory, is this getting better now?
Sadly, it doesn't seem so.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking, okay, all right. Is there, what would be, would you like to say more at this moment, or shall we continue?
Well, we can continue so to pick up some more things.
Okay. I mean, there's no more in the AI in a sense, in terms of the summary. They're going to each, let me say, in this paragraph that I've read out, they go into each part of those words, um, which I'm not sure if I really want to go into everything. But okay, for example, they say heart, mind, and actions. Purity is reflected in thoughts, choices, attitudes, relationships, and all aspects of one's being. So again, Gregory, is that giving a very good picture there?
These pictures are helpful, but the essence of operation is what has really not been discussed, which are the basic nouns when purity, because purity is there is taken as a noun.
Yes. You know what?
So,
I'm going. Yeah, sorry.
yeah,
Go on.
go on.
Yeah. So what I thought was, let's look at explore purity as the concept first, because that is the. Before we say striving for purity, let's make sure we know what is purity before we start striving for that. So now, I know this is a silly question, but I just put it in anyway. So when we are talking about purity, are we talking purity in the physical sense, which means cleaning our body, our home, our workplace, environment, society, and country? I'm just looking at the physical world there, Gregory. So are we meant to strive for purity in the physical sense? Is that what we are talking about here?
What that refers to is cleanliness
Yes.
in deeds, cleanliness which are perceptible in deeds, and cleanliness that tends towards purity. The cleanliness of our environment, basically the air, that means no dust particles which will hinder one's health, and the cleanliness of the environment again, or even of our homes, so as to prevent germs from taking roots or from contaminating. So one can see, one can already perceive that this purity is, there is this cleanliness which goes
Yes.
with it. But when one considers it, like you just read out, this basically is dealing with that which is perceptible using the five senses. But there is more to it than that which is perceptible.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, but I just thought I would, I thought it might, it just sounds like a silly question, but at least there's a base from where we are starting.
It is not
And
a silly question at all.
okay, thank you, thank you. I just thought, as I said, physicals is what we are more familiar with, so I thought I would start with that first. And we know, as you've already pointed out, this the word purity is not referred when we talk in this program. the, the, the purity is covering more than just the physical world. And that's what we're going to look at as well. So, so Gregory, can we look at the non-physical world when we're talking about purity? Because we did mention already about words, thoughts. Let me just see if there was anything else there. Um, uh, Attitudes, yes. So all aspects of one's being, in fact, is the phrase they've used here, heart, mind, and actions. So correctly, that can be non-physical, uh, as they say. So do we mean that as well? Purity in our heart, mind, and actions, which is, yeah,
So, to be more precise, it's in accordance with, um, because the basis of this discussion is an introduction to the work in the light of truth, the Grail message. And here one is referring to spirituality. So the need is there to bring that which is spiritual, spiritual purity. So basically, when spirituality is mentioned, there is the um, the purity which is considered in deeds, like the cleanliness which is mentioned, the purity which is considered in thoughts. That means the way we care to think, and also the purity which is considered with regards to one's intuition. So these are three different categories which must be considered when purity is discussed. And the question becomes, what would be the reference point of, on what basis can one discuss purity? Because purity is discussed here, and we ourselves as human personalities are have originated through nature or through creation. In that particular case, there must be a basis. Which basis in this particular case are the laws of nature or the laws of creation. Therefore, whenever any words or language is concerned, it must be considered only in accordance with the laws of creation. And from that point, yes, it makes sense. Otherwise, it will not make any sense. So for a starter, there will be, or there's the purity in deeds, purity in thoughts, and purity in our intuitive perceptions.
thanks very much, Gregory, for clarifying this concept of purity from the spiritual sense. which you've said is deeds, thoughts, and the intuitive perception. So we are going to keep exploring on that in a moment. Um, Let me just trying to see. Okay. Um, I'm going to look at, Gregory, the consequences of, you could say, living in purity and not, and the, and not, if not practicing that purity, sense of purity. So let's see that, Gregory. I mean, in a way, physically, I know we're not meant to focus on the physical side, but I just like to use that as a way of example, because, as I said, practically it's easy to see when we are looking physically if we behave in a pure manner there. Cleanliness is the word we have used to, in a way, as an equivalent of purity there in the physical sense. So keeping the body clean, keeping the home clean, keeping the environment clean around us. So you can see what effect it has on the world that we live there. You could say it's somehow attractive, beautiful even, the environment when you look into it, when you make things clean. And obviously, if we don't maintain this purity or cleanliness, things do go in a quite a bad state. So, Gregory, okay, that's a bit obvious. So let me not focus on that one too much. Now let's look at it, Gregory, in the spiritual sense. If one is, let's say, not striving in purity in the spiritual sense, what would be the effect of that? And maybe you can think of some example on those in that direction.
Purity in the spiritual sense refers to the activities of one's intuition. For the intuitive perception is an expression of spiritual activity. And when you have that the spiritual activity is not pure in the sense of creation, therefore one must first clarify what purity is in accordance with the divine laws of creation, or the laws of creation, which are also categorized as spiritual laws, and in nature are also categorized as the laws of nature. When one considers the laws of nature, there is that law in which one may refer to as that of reciprocal activity. The law of reciprocal activities. In any reciprocal activity, you will find that when an activity is initiated, there is a reciprocity. Secondly, you will find also that when that which is referred to as a reciprocity is as if a cycle is completed. And from that point of view, one can also consider the second law of creation, which is that of the attraction of homogeneity. With that, there are already basically two laws which are being considered, although they can be seen as one. There is the third law, which many also refer to as spiritual gravitation, That means that which is denser will sink, whereas that which is lighter will rise. Every human personality wishes to improve itself. Every human personality wishes in its activities to become not only conscious of its existence in nature, in creation, but also to become self conscious. That means to exhibit, to strive to exhibit, to cultivate that which has been sown in it, or to strive to cultivate that which creation had granted it as a gift for it to cultivate. That is why you have people making efforts to become conscious of their environment, of their environment in matter, the world of matter, and of their spiritual environment. That being the case, then you will find that whatever activity the individual is involved with, activities which are perceptible to the five senses in the world of matter, activities which also involves one's thoughts, and activities which involve one's intuition, if those activities are in accordance with the laws of nature, with the laws of creation, then one would say the individual resonates resonates with the laws of creation. That means he's able to attract the blessings which flow through creation and is able to make use of these blessings in accordance with these laws, such that it, the striving human personality, will rise higher and higher in first in its recognition. So many things have been presented to this human personality, and in making use of that which has been presented to it, which is cognizant of, is able to rise higher and higher as long as these activities resonate with the will of the Almighty, which has been hewn into creation as the laws of creation. Only along such, or only in that sense, would one say the individual has fulfilled its task in loyalty. So when you have that scenario where the individual in its activities fulfills that which it needs to do in loyalty, then it has been done in purity. So for the human personality, loyalty is therefore purity in creation, because that's the only way it can fulfill its tasks and become not only conscious of its existence, but become self conscious in accordance with the will that permitted it to come into creation and rise higher and proceed back to its origin, where it will continue to work with all the forces in creation in the fulfillment of the will that also permitted it to come into existence.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this answer and explanation. What I can see there is that these laws of creation, which are also can be known as spiritual laws or natural laws, what we are doing is we are working with nature. So when we talk about purity, let's say in the spiritual sense that we are referring to, it is working with these laws of nature, harmonizing with nature. It sounds very straightforward, but maybe we don't think too much about it. What when we are doing something, are we harmonizing with nature? Are we working against the nature? Let me just apologies, listeners. We seem to lost the connection. I'm just making sure Gregory's with me before we continue. So just a little bit, little pause until I find Gregory, because I don't want to continue without him being there. So I apologize for this technical breakdown. Just want to make sure Gregory can be with us. It looks like we are having an issue to connect to Gregory. I will continue while we are waiting for that. So as I was saying, if you wish to get a copy of the Grail message or want a copy of the Grail message or want to get some information on the Grail message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that: www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is striving for purity. Striving for purity. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting, that is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And we are also broadcasting in a couple of other websites. The first one is YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 again, space Grail message, space, the topic of the show tonight, which is striving for purity. And then after this show, you can listen to the recording of this show again on YouTube with exactly the same search word. So I'll repeat that. So go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 there, space, Grail message, space, striving for purity. And there's one other way, a third way you can listen to us, which is by going to Zeno, that's Zeno FM /radio /bless radio 1. Again, that's the number 1 there. Now, Gregory, we've been talking about purity, the consequences of striving for purity in the spiritual sense, as we say, which we said has to be in harmony, you can say, with the laws of creation, or the laws of nature, or the spiritual laws. There's so many ways to express it. So I now want to look at if someone is not striving in purity, what would be in the spiritual sense now, what would be the result of that?
You yourself said someone is not striving with respect to purity. That means the person's activities are unable, or the vibration of the person's activities do not resonate with the vibrations through which he or she is able to attract that it needs to function correctly. Then the consequences are very plain to see. It means the fulfillment of its tasks become impossible. Because here you have a human personality who, instead of resonating, instead of receiving that which is beneficial to it, is unable to receive it. That means it's as if it's in the dark. It does not know the right way to proceed. And in such a confusion, it will step from one error to another error. And before long, it will be totally entangled in errors. And it must be noted that the time granted the individual to cultivate that which has sown into it, that time is not infinite. There is a finite period here in the world of matter. So in that case, if it continues the same way that it has proceeded without resonating with it, it is so entangled, and on that in which creation is built on, basically that of reciprocal activities, that ensures that it has so entangled itself. And in the case of the world of matter, the time granted to it is wasted. You will then find the world of matter is only temporal. The end of an activity will flow back to the beginning of an activity. That means the end in the world of matter, the substances will have to revert to their original state. In that particular instance, the human personality that is caught within will have to lose the consciousness, the self-consciousness that it has acquired, the form that it has acquired in that particular state, because it's unable to rise forth towards its origin with the status it has acquired in the world of matter, which does not resonate in purity. In that state, you will find that the human personality returns to its primeval state of formlessness, or it goes back to the initial state as when it left paradise as an unconscious spirit gem. One may then call that the time and all the resources permitted it. That was done in vain because he didn't make use of it to bring it any benefit. So that is the dire consequence for those who refuse to resonate. That means those who refuse to make use of the blessings which have been permitted it to become self-conscious.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for this picture and explanation you're giving us. The impact, you can say, of striving for purity or doing the opposite is very serious. It's like you said, it affects your consciousness, basically your life, future. So, which you may not have thought about when you were thinking initially, because let's say when we have been talking about purity initially, we are thinking of the earth life. But this is really the whole life, the spiritual life of the human being that is at stake. Not just the earth life. Earth life is, even, as you said, Gregory, this is temporal. We know everything on this earth will one day, in fact, the whole physical universe that we're familiar has to die one day. And however, we are spiritual beings, which are meant to become or live eternally. And you cannot live eternally on this earth or world of matter, the physical world, because it always has one date of expiry, if I can say that way. But the spiritual has the ability, or its aim is to be eternal, or it's supposed to be eternal. So that's the big difference here, and which we are not feeling. We don't maybe realize that whilst we're on this earth. That's probably why we don't think about how important it is to strive for purity. It has much more bigger consequence than just living on this earth. So thank you for showing that to us. Now I want to look at what you said earlier, Gregory. When we are talking about striving for purity in the spiritual sense, we're talking about our deeds, thoughts, and intuition. So the deeds, Gregory, when I look at the word deeds, some come across as the physical rather than spiritual. So, but you are talking about spiritual. So can you please explain that when you use the word spiritual deeds in terms of spiritual? What does that mean? Does it include physical actions, or is something else?
The clarification which we mentioned earlier was that that personality that we are able to perceive in flesh and blood, that has the physical body which is recognizable, that personality may be involved in deeds which are recognizable for those who have flesh and blood. That is physical in the world of matter, in the dense world of matter. So the activities of the individual in the dense world of matter is perceptible with those who have the five senses. On the other hand, we also have the human personality here in the world of matter here on earth. The human personality has thoughts. These thoughts are not perceptible using our hands. These thoughts are not perceptible using our ears. Or are we able to taste these thoughts? Or are we able to see these thoughts? But every human personality that has flesh and blood can attest to it that they think, so they have thoughts. Therefore, the activities of the thoughts must also be considered, because the thoughts do have an impact on their deeds, which deeds are perceptible to the five senses. Above the thoughts, because the inner personality is of spirit, is of a spark, the communication between the inner personality, which is of spirit, and the body, that communication is via one's intuitive perceptions. When the human personality loses the physical body of flesh and blood, at that state where the physical body is no more active, has become inactive, at that state, it is referred to as the soul. That means the soul has severed itself. In that particular state, the human personality persists and continues to exist and is able to have an impact on its environment using the intuitive perception. And in that environment is able to have different operations. It has not got the physical body anymore. It hasn't got the thoughts anymore, because the thoughts arise from the brain, which brain is also of flesh and blood. So the individual continues. In that particular state, in its vibrations, the vibrations that made it possible for it to continue to exist, it is subjected, or it is subject to the laws of creation, through which it, the spark, came into existence. Therefore, if in its inner attitude it vibrates in such a way as is able to perceive of these blessings, then hopefully it's able to make use of it to propel itself to rise higher. If those activities is engaged in are in accordance with the will of the giver that made it possible. If its activities, when it has lost the physical body, is not in accordance, then the likelihood is that it will sink further to such an extent where it's able, together with others that have similar attitudes, that have homogeneous attitudes, they will come together and share experiences. If those experiences are those of torments, then that is what they themselves wish. If it is subsequently in their vibrations, they wish for noble things and they strive after nobility, then in accordance with these laws of nature of creation, such nobilities are found in that which is higher, in the higher realms. Therefore, in a step-by-step manner, they will gravitate or they will move higher to such realms where they can participate actively. And in that case, that means they will become more conscious, more self-conscious because in their inner state, they receive of these blessings, they make use of these blessings, and they support those who are lower than them, just as others who are higher than them support them. They also support those who are lower than them. In that case, they will now cultivate the path, or they will be attracted. It's as if they are being sucked up to rise higher and higher until they are able to arrive at their origin, the paradise of man, where they continue with their activities. That is how it is in accordance with the laws of creation. It was these same laws of creation that permitted it, the spirit spark, to even come into existence and has permitted it to grow, has granted it the grace, that means the various manifold opportunities to participate in activities that will strengthen it, such that it will also know the joys that permitted it to come into existence, and also participate with others who are walking along that line.
Thanks again, Gregory, for this picture you're painting for us. What I'm getting from it is that it's like we human beings put our focus in the, let's say, towards purity, meaning thinking good, thinking uh, purely, you know, and that is acting as a deed. We send out these thoughts of goodness and thinking in pure way, striving for goodness, and as a consequence, through the laws of creation, we are, you could say, lifted or sucked, I think you were talking about, uh, into a higher realm of, uh, uh, let's say, um, of maturity or higher spiritual consciousness. And that's, if I look at it the opposite way, where we are thinking, let's say, evil or dark thoughts, then the consequence of that is driving us uh, to like a more destructive world, which is which can succumb to destruction. So these laws, the natural laws that are we are working with, whether knowingly or unknowingly, they, according to our, I was going to use the word wish, but according to our focus and our spiritual wishes, if I can say that way. I think the proper word is supposed to be volition, if you use the right word. Then, and that will, you draw things to yourself as how you stand. That's, if I can put it in a simpler way, you know. So, but we may not see these things, you know, like Jesus told us, what you sow, you shall reap. Well, if you reap, if you, sow evil, you get evil, the reward is evil. If you sow good, do good deeds, then of course the reward will be a good, let's say, beautiful reward for you. So that's how we should be appreciating uh, the how the purity works, striving for purity works. So thank you for that. Gregory, what about prayer? Um, should we be praying as well in this? You know, in many spiritual teachings, that is part of their teaching. Sometime in some of them they say once a week, other times it's much more than that. So is there something that we should be part of this striving for purity, that we should be praying as well? And if so, what is that prayer?
Is prayer not a preparation of the individual to ensure that they strive aright? For when many pray, to use the word, they wish, if it is that of thanksgiving, that means there is a reciprocal activity of gratitude. At the same time, for those who need one thing or the other, they engage in activities. So prayer is an activity itself, but an evolution to receive that. The challenge the human spirit has is it wishes to receive, but has not matured enough to know how to receive. Even in prayer, although it is very simple and very direct, for whoever wishes to receive must prepare itself, must engage in purity, such that the vibrations from on high is able to reach it. That preparation of opening up is more or less a prayer to be able to receive. But the individuals must take that step first. That means must open itself. For if it doesn't open itself, how can you receive when you do not open yourself to the blessings which are in abundance? These blessings will be there or have been there, but if you do not open up and you keep murmuring, in quotes, prayers, that is a complete waste of time. So the key here is that the individual must strive to know how to open itself. Some are able to do that through music. Some are able to do that when they stroll in the woods. There are so many different ways, but the key here is the openness of the individual to receive. Many times it is when the individual has gone through harrowing experiences. Through these harrowing experiences, it becomes open. And it finds that all the ways it has been seeking, there is no way through that because it wasn't open. And once it has given up and has changed its inner attitude, then you find that it's able to receive that which initially it thought was not possible.
Thanks very much again, Gregory, for that picture there. Dear listeners, I want to let you know you're listening to Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Uprishin. If you wish to know more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is striving for purity. Striving for purity. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. There's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And we are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 again, space, Grail message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is striving for purity. and you can listen to a recording of this show after the end of the show, which is at 8 p.m. basically tonight. Uh, Again on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 again, space, Grail, message, space, the topic of tonight, which is striving for purity. And you can. There's a third place you can listen to us, which is Zeno. I'll give you the website for that is zeno.fm/radio/bless radio 1. That's the number 1 there again. Now, Gregory, we know there's another, how can I say, concept or I'll just say the word temptation that exists, and somehow it sort of works against us to bring us down, like again, well, as the word actually says, it's there to tempt you to go away, you can say, or fall away from the right direction, if I can say that way. So I was wondering, Gregory, is there a way we can, by being pure, avoid temptation and somehow become strong? Or the temptation would always be there? I just, because temptation is not something that we ask for, it somehow is around us. And so, is there a way, by becoming pure, can we avoid temptation?
The question one must ask oneself is that who are those who are subject to temptations? You do not talk about temptation when you refer to plants. Temptations are out of the question when referring to animals. Temptations become are only applicable to those who have the free will to make decisions, because they are accountable. If they were not accountable, that means if they didn't have a free will to make a choice, they will not be accountable, and therefore temptation will be ruled out. It is the degree of maturity that the human personality has acquired through its volition in striving to become conscious and subsequently self-conscious. It is that degree that ensures that it is on the right track or not on the right track. When it's not on the right track, basically you will find all that it has around it, it may refer to it as being tempted. But temptation is basically, or the core of temptation, is to lure the individual into that which does not resonate in accordance with the will of the Almighty. As long as the individual strives strenuously in deeds, in thoughts, and above all in its intuition, then that degree or that margin of temptations will vanish. because it has set its sight on that which is beneficial to it. And that's what you find with the principle of one for all and all for one, because it knows that he himself or herself is an integral part of creation and will strive with all that has been granted to it through the grace that permitted it to come into existence. It will strive to ensure it swings aright rather than just looking at the surface of things and following it. In this case, the need has been stressed that not only in deeds which are perceptible to the five senses, but also in one's thoughts and above all in one's intuitions. As long as it vibrates in its activities along these lines, then in accordance with the will of the Almighty, only that which is homogeneous to it will approach it. That which is not homogeneous to it will not find any response from the individual to deviate to the right or to the left, because that gulf is there.
Thank you, Gregory, for this answer. Um, so, yet again, what we are seeing is temptation will affect only those who are, let's say, opened for that, and others who are not in that sense, and thinking this way, then it will not have touched them. So, which again is all logical. So, again, I'm thinking from the point of view of nature. You know, when animals are hunting or trying to feed, they're looking for feeding on another animal, let's say, and they're looking how to find their feed. They're looking whichever is the easiest prey for them, you know, and it looks like the weak ones are the ones, maybe it's the young or some animal that is not so fast. The predator will aim to go for that one. So with temptation, in regards to human beings, it's the weak human beings, you can say, are in danger of falling into temptation, whilst those who are not so just weak in this way, that would not fall on them. That's what I understand from what you've said there. Now,
You mentioned weakness.
yes,
What is key in these matters is the practice. As long as one's intuition is always, or the strong volition for that which is good is always there, then you will find that the individual will unconsciously be attracted to that which is good, even if it is challenging. For many a time, an individual may think, oh, I'm not on the right track, all right, because what I seek hasn't yet materialized. And therefore, they wish now to violate all the laws of creation to have shortcuts so that their wishes, personal wishes, will be fulfilled. Whereas it is not so. As long as the individual intuitively harbors the good volition, which good volition is to bring benefit not only to itself, but also to creation, for it's able to receive of these blessings, to make use of it in accordance with the will of the Almighty, and then pass it on to others. Each individual must be honest with himself or herself. How many strive along such a direction? Many only wish to receive, make use of it to themselves, and call themselves millionaires, whatever they call it. All this, most of their striving is based on selfishness. That is it. And subsequently, when they are unable to receive because their volition is filled with selfishness, then they search for other ways and they prayer, which prayer is the same selfishness, which they seek to impact on others. Self-love, without considering that it was through the efforts of others that they themselves even came into existence. So the picture, that which is good in accordance with the will of the Almighty, that must be borne in mind in all activities.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this, um, you could say, clarification and expansion in realizing that this is all about love, and all for one, one for all, not about us with our own selfish desires and wishes. Um, we don't live by ourselves. There's the whole creation around us. So we must be not only aware, but we need to work with it. So thank you for that. Now, Gregory, I want to, we have talked about intuition here, and I want to get a clear picture about this intuition, because many people, they say there's like a voice in their head saying, when they're in a particular scenario, and they're considering an action to take, and they're saying, oh, there's an idea, let's say, in front of them, do it this way. And then some voice, which I can't say if that is intuition or if it's something else, telling them, oh, maybe this is not a good idea. Or it might even say it is a good idea. So there's somehow, they say there's a voice in your head telling you. And some people even call it noise, because it's not, the person doesn't know which way to turn. It's a funny thing, because when you're talking with another human being, you know whose voice you're listening there. But this one is an internal one. And I wanted to clarify that, Gregory. When you have this, let's say, it's not somebody, I'm not talking about some mad thing here. It's quite normal. As I say, you're looking at a scenario and you're having your idea about it, and then something suggests, or do this, not this way, another way. What how can we know if it is, let's say, our intuition talking, or it is something, maybe it's our imagination? I'm not quite sure where this other voice is coming from. As I said, some people even call it noise. So how do we know, Gregory? Because the intuition, I know we haven't said it so much today, or maybe we just say a little bit, it's meant to be the voice of your spirit, and that is a guiding voice. But this other voice, let's say, call it imagination, or whatever else other noise, even as people put it, it is not from the spirit. So I know people may not um, look at these things in this way, but we are trying to clear these things. So, Gregory, how do you know work out if it is your intuition telling you something, or it is some other? I use the word another voice or noise talking to you.
Thanks for this particular question because it troubles many. In the first instance, there is a lecture in the work in the light of truth, the Grail message, titled Intuitive Perception. There are other lectures in which they talk of the inner voice. Here, your question refers to that of the intuition or the intuitive perception. And in that lecture, it refers to the intuitive perception as a picture which is furnished, a picture without words. It's like you have a picture, no words attached to it. Words only come later, but everything is so fast. And since each individual is different, many times, many are so used to so much voice that it becomes noise. One is unable to differentiate. There are many ways of saying it because each individual, with its body radiations, with the radiations of the spirit and radiations of the body, each individual is different. But the first picture which presents itself, in which voice is not attached to it, that first picture in that scenario, that in itself is the expression of of one's intuition. So each individual will have to, through their personal observation and practice, should be able to differentiate or determine that which is intuitive and that which is not intuitive. But prior to that, there is the need for continuous activities in one's observations. For only when one make use of these pictures which are furnished again and again, only then will one be able to recognize it in good time. It's just like only when you strive to speak a language, only then will you know some of the key things about the language. And when you then hear a word or perceive a picture, you know where to put it. So the problem in these matters has been due to lack of self-observations or lack of practice. And that is why that which is noise sometimes comes in and the individual is unable to identify that which is right. For many, because they don't have that very strong and good volition, the more people engage in gossip, the more they prepare the soil for different, manifold noise to step in. Why? Because it's like you have a radio set, and if the radio set is not focused, Then you have some noise in the background, which you never you can't seem to take away. But if subsequently one is fully tuned to a particular frequency, then with practice, the individual becomes clear that even before some things manifest gross materially, that means before some things manifest where they can be perceived with the five senses, the individual would have sensed some of this and made preparations. So you will find in some cases, some through dreams, some others through experience, they are able to perceive some things and they hold on to it and they're not drowned through gossips by listening to others, and they're able to now weave their way forward. For more on what intuition is and how it operates, the need is there for the individual to examine or to weigh and examine the lecture in the Walk in the Light of Truth, the Grail message. It is titled Intuitive Perception.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this answer. And dear listeners, if you want to pick up the Grail message, then you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. Now, when we are talking about intuition, Gregory, we hear sometimes they say women's intuition, as if women have some special gift of intuition, which the men, well, on the surface it sounds like the men don't have intuition, but we know the men do have intuition. So is there something special about women, Gregory, that they have, let's say, better intuition than a man? And if so, why is it?
Very simply, the constitution of women, only through women are we able to have our physical body prepared in their wombs, and then you have delivery. Only through what they themselves have supplied. Right, in the first case, and then in the second case, a preparation in their womb before delivery, and in the third case, there is the nurturing of the individual until it attains adulthood. So one can see very clearly that much is granted, that which is referred to as woman, because much has been granted to it, and part of it, of that which is granted, is the ability to perceive. They have a finer ability to perceive because of the tasks which have been assigned to them. If less tasks were assigned to them, then they may not have such abilities. But because the tasks are there, and these tasks are finer in the attraction of other souls through themselves or to their neighborhood, one can already see that in the wisdom of the Almighty that permitted them to be able to accomplish these tasks, that which is finer is also granted to them. So that which is of womanhood is finer than that which is of man. Man is denser, whereas woman is finer. But the scenario in which we now find ourselves, unless you have the scenario in which the species of woman striving after purity in accordance with the will of the Almighty, if you have that striving, then you have the scenario where that which would be distracting them from their task, such temptations are pushed aside. So, in that case, only those who strive after purity, purity of activities that are dense, of activities which are perceptible to the five senses, purity of thoughts, and purity of intuitions. Then, when you have that scenario, that tends to cleanse the individual, particularly women, so that they are able to perceive many a thing even before man is able to perceive it. For in their purity, they are now able to resonate and attract that which is of upbuilding. If, however, they do not strive after purity, the opposite effect might as well manifest.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this answer. What I'd like to check with you next, then. So, I mean, you're saying, as with everything, you can use something for the good, or you can misuse it for the bad, if I can say like that. So, just whether it's man or woman, both can go, let's say, towards goodness or towards evil. Now, the point is to strive for purity, both male and the female. But I think you were saying, if I'm correct, Gregory, that women are more, how can I say, sensitive or capable of, how can I say, having a sharper intuition than the man. Am I correct to say that?
The tasks which are assigned to the woman by nature or by creation is such that there is the need for higher sensitivity to be able to fulfill these tasks aright. Consider the first task of the attraction of souls to themselves in the case of motherhood. Consider the task in which that soul which have been attracted is taken care of in their wombs. And also consider the task after delivery in which the child is nurtured, considered, and supported until it attains adulthood. When you consider all these tasks, you will find that for them to be able to accomplish that, one is only given an example, a finer intuitive perception is granted, a more sensitive intuitive perception is granted, such that in their vibrations, they will do it in such a loyal way. So, for womanhood, loyalty to the light that granted these opportunities, these blessings, it is the loyalty that is referred to here, that is the purity. As long as what she does, as long as her activities are in accordance with the will of the Almighty, as long as they resonate with the love of the Almighty, and these things are done in loyalty, not in calculation, are done in loyalty, particularly in their intuition, then it is considered pure. Else, if it is not done in loyalty, but calculatively to attain some personal distinction or personal phrase or selfishly, then it is not loyal. Then it is not pure.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this explanation. I've got more to ask you in a moment. Before I do that, I want to let the listeners know that you're listening to Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abdrusheen. And if you wish to know more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, G-R-A-I-L, message, M-E-S-S-A-G-E.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is striving for purity. Striving for purity. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. There's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting, that is blessradio1, that's the number one.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And we are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number one there, space Grail message, space the topic of the show tonight, which is striving for purity. And after the show, when we end the show at 8 p.m., you can listen to the recording of the show. Again, it's on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number one again, space Grail message, space the topic of the show, striving for purity. And of course, you can listen to the recording of our previous shows as well again on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's Zeno dot FM /radio /bless radio 1. That's the number 1 there. Now, Gregory, we've been talking about um, intuition, women's intuition, being more sensitive or finer, not because something woman is better than man or something like that, more because of the task that is assigned to woman, which is different from the task assigned to man. Man is more designed to work in coarser, do coarser activity, while the woman is working in a finer activity. We're not going to go into all the specifics of all that, but the example Gregory gave earlier, a woman brings the child onto this earth, the human being onto this earth, and carries that as a baby inside the womb for 9 months, as we know, before it comes out. So that's quite a delicate task. So you can understand that's different from what a man does. That's just one example, of course. We just use that because we know that one is really clear. Now, we're going using this as just in one example. I'm wondering now, if woman is more sensitive, and you said even can pick up the thoughts or things before better than man can do, let's say, more sensitively than the man can do. If that's the case, should man be more listening to the woman in terms of guidance, Gregory? Because as I said, woman is more sensitive, you know. And they even said there's a big saying: behind every man stands, I don't remember if it's good woman, but a woman. So maybe these phrases or sayings that we come up with, which is all over the world, maybe there's something behind that. So when they say behind, is it every great man stands a woman? I think that's the phrase. If I can't remember exactly. So Gregory, does that mean that a man is supposed to listen to the guidance of the woman? Is that what it means?
That is true only in the scenario where the perceptions of the woman is purified. If the perceptions have not been purified, then you have, as you have in the case of temptation, where the sensibilities is drawn into the wrong direction, and following such in the wrong direction is not of benefit to both. But in the case in which you have the perceptions which have been purified through activities again and again, then in all naturalness, yes. Don't forget, in these scenarios, it is one for all and all for one.
Thanks for that. So what I'm saying, there are these conditions that need to be satisfied before. It's not that any woman or anything a woman says is supposed to be followed by the man. The woman must be, you could say, practicing in purity for that guidance or what she receives to be reliable or you could say beneficial. So otherwise, there's a potential failure there, or flaw there. So yeah,
But don't forget that as with everything, whatever is passed on to the man, whatever the individual comes along that encounters in his life, everything must be weighed and examined in accordance with the laws in creation. So, whatever advice, whatever piece of intuition which has been passed on from anyone, even from that of the light, the individual must weigh it with his or her intuitions, must examine this in accordance with these laws of creation. Only in that process is the individual able to determine whether it is going to be of benefit or not. Not because it has been said, well, if you do this, just follow the woman and you do that. Far from it. For if you yourself do not weigh and you yourself do not examine aright, how would you then know it will be of benefit? So, whatever piece of information, whatever piece of intuition that is furnished by the woman, that must be weighed, that must be examined first using the intuition of the man before it agrees or disagrees with it. But to ignore without weighing and examining is also indolence.
thanks very much, Gregory, for emphasizing that point. That because otherwise, what will might happen is man will, in quotes, will become dependent on the woman, and then if the woman is falling a wrong direction, the man will also fall into that same direction, and then that is will be, how can I say, wrong, because you're not supposed to become dependent in this way. That's not, you know, your life is your responsibility. Another person's life is their responsibility. You can't become like a blind follower just because, yes, there's trust, yes, there's goodness, but um, one of the phrases that Jesus told us, watch and pray. Yes, watch, and watching is, keeping alert. So you can't just go blindly. This is I mean, the word blind already gives the clue that you're not supposed to do blindly these things. So thank you for that. Now, Gregory, there's another phrase that Jesus used, uh, which why I'm saying that is connected with purity. He said, "Become as little children," um, and he was talking to adults, not to children. Become as little children, and then wondering, okay, of course, he doesn't saying you. That doesn't mean that you should return to a childhood, but what does he mean, Gregory? Become as little children.
If a child needs something, it makes it simple. It doesn't go about it in a very convoluted way. With children, innocence is assumed. With children, simplicity is also assumed. So, when one should become as little children, that means in one's life, one should seek for that which is simple rather than base one's activities on complications. For it is with the so-called elders or the grown-ups, their requests are so convoluted that you cannot tell the beginning from the end. Whereas the child, in its requests, is precise as best as it could on what it wants. It will not ask for 5 million, or it will not make 5 million requests. It will only make one or two requests, and once that is fulfilled, it is happy. But with the grown up, they make maybe 20, 30, 40, 100 requests, confusing the whole thing. And whether it's of benefit to them or not, they are not concerned with that.
Thank you again, Gregory, for this answer. Um, Now I'm thinking, I was just thinking, almost at the end of our show, so maybe I would like to read something in relation to this watch. And well, there's a lecture, there's a number of lectures that we say in the Grail message, which are, let's say, connected with the concept of purity. I'm just going to find something now. If I can, a moment, please. I'm going to look for that now. Yes, this one is a lecture. Oh, just make sure I've got it clear. I'm going to read a section here. This is a lecture in the Grail message called Watch and Pray. How often are these words of the Son of God quoted as well-meant advice and warning, but neither the giver of the advice nor the recipient take the trouble to reflect upon the real meaning of these words. Every man knows what is meant by praying, or rather he thinks he knows, although in truth he does not know. He also imagines that he knows what to watch means, but he is far from doing so. Watch and pray is a figurative rendering of the admonition to keep the ability to perceive intuitively on the alert, i.e., to keep the spirit active. Spirit in its true sense, not the activity of the brain, for the way the living human spirit expresses itself is only and solely through the intuitive perception. In no other way does the spirit of man, i.e., the original kernel, which evolved into his true ego, in the course of its wanderings through subsequent creation, become active. Watch and pray is therefore nothing less than the demand to refine and strengthen man's ability to perceive intuitively, which is equivalent to vitalizing the life of the spirit. The only eternal value man possesses is his spirit, which alone can return to paradise from which it issued. It must return there, either matured and self-conscious, or again in an unconscious state, either welcome to the light as a living ego which has become useful in creation, or as a dismembered and dead ego if it has proved itself useless. The admonition to watch and pray is therefore one of the most serious which the Son of God bequeathed to mankind. At the same time, it is a grave warning to stand as useful beings in creation, lest damnation inevitably follows through the automatic working of the divine laws. Look at woman. She
She has, as the most precious gift of womanhood, a delicacy of intuitive perception, which no other creature can attain. For this reason, one should be able to speak only of noble womanhood in this creation, because womanhood possesses within itself the strongest gifts towards realization of all that is good.
This, however, places the greatest of responsibilities upon woman. For this reason, Lucifer, with all the hosts that belong to him, aimed primarily at woman, in order thus to subjugate the whole creation to his power. Unfortunately, Lucifer found only too superficial a basis in the woman of subsequent creation. With open eyes, she flew into his meshes and, in her own way, poisoned the entire subsequent creation by changing her pure concepts, by changing pure concepts into distorted images, which inevitably brought confusion to all human spirits. The pure flower of noble womanhood, the crown of this subsequent creation, debased itself under the influence of the tempter, and soon became the poison plant which, with its glittering colors and seductive fragrance, attracts all to the spot where it flourishes, to the swamp, into the sultry softness of which the victims, thus allured, sink. Woe unto woman, because she had not made proper use of the highest of all values bestowed upon her. She will inevitably be the first upon whom the sword of divine justice will fall, unless she decides to use the special mobility of her spiritual intuition, so peculiarly her own, to take the lead in the necessary ascent of mankind out of the ruins of such a faulty structure of perverted conceptions, which only arose through Lucifer's promptings. Instead of setting an example of honestly striving for the white blossom of noble purity and adorning herself with it, she chose to indulge in coquetry and vanity, the playground of which is a wrongly cultivated social life. Woman fully sensed that she was losing thereby the genuine ornament of womanhood, and grasped at the substitute offered to her by the darkness. She sought to offer her physical charms for sale and become a shameless slave of fashion, as a result of which she sank still further into the abyss, dragging men along with her by stimulating their instincts, which inevitably hindered the unfolding of their spirits. All those who thus failed became rotten fruit in this creation. Uh, in this creation, all those who thus failed had become rotten fruit in this creation, had planted within themselves the seed, which now, in the necessary judgment, must cause their destruction through the reciprocal action, because it made them incapable of withstanding the roaring and purifying storms. Let no soil, let no one soil his hands by helping the worshippers of the idol of vanity and coquetry, if they stretch out their arms to be saved in the hour of need. Let them sink, push them away. They have no valuable qualities which could be used in the new building up that has been promised. I'm going to stop there. Um, Dear listeners, that was a section from the lecture, uh, Watch and Pray, which is in the Grail message, In the Light of Truth by Abrushin. And if you wish to uh, find out more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. I hope, listeners, you have enjoyed the discussion tonight on striving for purity. So I'm going to now ask Gregory, is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wishing listeners a beautiful week ahead.
Thank you. Same from you, listeners. Have a beautiful week ahead. We'll be back as usual next Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time, with another topic. Have a great week, as I said. Good night.